minutes before I started the show, I checked my phone. Breaking news. Shannon Sharpe is joining First Take with Stephen A. on Mondays and Tuesdays. So in the last 2.5 months, the whole morning debate format has just completely taken a huge shift. You got one guy coming from one show to the other. You got the other guy from that show adding new people onto his show, established people in the business, who I'll get to in just a moment. But as for Shannon, as for First Take, first of all, again, I'm not shocked. We heard Stephen A. On his podcast, which is a great show, by the way. Stephen A. has an excellent podcast, the No Mercy podcast. He said on No Mercy, I guess it was last month, when the reports were out, hey, Shannon's like the most coveted free agent, broadcaster, sports opinionist in the business. He's the most coveted we've seen in a long time. And Shannon went on to his podcast, No Mercy. He's like, I'm not gonna BS you guys. I want Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe is more than welcome to come to First Take. And even Shannon was sort of flirting with it. I think he retweeted that particular podcast. It was like, okay, it just needs to be some paper signed to make this thing official, some contracts signed. But he's with First Take now. So Mondays, Tuesdays, that makes sense for the simple fact that he'll be on Mondays to react to Sunday's games. He'll be on Tuesday to react to the Monday night game. I would also like to see Shannon, frankly, on Fridays to predict the coming week's games. I think that'd be interesting. I think that'd be fun. Maybe at least bring on maybe for a segment. I know First Take, ever since they let go of Max Kellerman a couple of years ago, Stephen A. decided to go to sort of this feeling of host. Like he'll have Mad Dog Russo on Wednesdays. I remember back in the day, he used to have Tim Tebow on Fridays. Like he'll have Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky and Marcus Spears. I'm talking about NFL. Mina Kimes. I'm talking about NFL analyst, obviously. And he, of course, changes that NBA season. You'll have JJ Redick. You'll have Jay Williams, plenty of other people on that network, very talented individuals. But Shannon joining First Take. So first of all, I think this is great from a competition standpoint, Undisputed versus First Take. More on Undisputed in just a moment. Listen, Shannon's a big personality. Stephen A's a big personality. There are areas where they agree, aka the Dallas Cowboys. Areas where they disagree. I'd love to see Shannon be on the show beyond the NFL season to talk NBA, because we know he was really the first athlete to be on a debate show where he broadened his horizons beyond the sport he played. So Shannon can talk NBA. Shannon can talk boxing. Shannon can talk college football. Even a little bit of baseball. So like that, and he really opened it up for other people in the future to be able to do that. And so props to him in that regard. So I hope this isn't just a football thing. So I think First Take's been number one in ratings for a while now. I think for, a decade maybe. So Stephen A's crushed in that regard. He's the face of ESPN. As for Undisputed, I think it goes without saying they're going to miss Shannon. The fact that, first of all, they brought in Richard Sherman to be Skip's debate partner. There was a report that said 50 to 100 shows a year. So do the math. That's about the NFL season. So that'll, I guess, give Undisputed time to figure out who's going to come in for the NBA season. Because if Richard Sherman was not saying Richard Sherman can't talk NBA, but if he was as proficient at that as Shannon Sharpe, my guess is they would have given him at least the entirety of this year to say, like, hey, how does this work? The dynamic between Skip, Richard Sherman, the whole bit. So he's going to be on for the NFL season. They'll probably find an NBA player, coach, somebody to be on the Skip after the Super Bowl's over. They brought in Rachel Nichols, very established journalist in the space. She's going to be the moderator of the show. Has done a great job, has been successful with ESPN, post ESPN, with Showtime Sports, with Stacks, Steven Jackson, and Matt Barnes. And they've got by the way, Keyshawn Johnson potentially joins as well. Keyshawn, I think, is a very good analyst as well with ESPN, and now potentially, not official, with Fox Sports, potentially with Undisputed. Listen, I think I made it pretty clear that, because I talked about the whole Skip and Shannon quote unquote divorce from TV during the finals, so a couple months ago. And listen, I think Skip is. I think, as I always say, there's two things that can be true. I think Skip is the godfather of sports debate. Now, whether that's for better on some occasions, not just talking about Skip, I'm just talking about the entire space. Whether that's for better or for worse, for better because it's opened it up for shows like mine, more debate style shows, to have heated discussions, heated debates about LeBron and Jordan, about the Cowboys, about Tom Brady, like all these big topics going on in the world of sports. LeBron James, individually, wherever he plays. And so I give him credit in that regard. And I think it's changed the sports media landscape for the better in that regard. And something else can be true in that, because folks say, oh, Skip has bad takes. Folks, everybody has bad takes. Skip probably has more bad takes than others, but I've had bad. Folks, I had the Broncos winning the Super Bowl. Everybody has bad takes. I could care less about that. Because he's not the only one in that space. I think, frankly, we all do. If you put yourself out there long enough, you're going to have a bad take or two. It's the fact that within the last year, and it's been well documented, especially since they quote-unquote split, there has been a disconnect between Skip and Shannon Sharpe. There was a whole situation. Again, folks refer to the Damar Hamlin situation when Skip put out the, at best, insensitive tweet about Damar when he collapsed on the field, was given CPR, and Shannon didn't show up for Undisputed the next day. Skip did the show solo. Shannon showed up the day after that, and they had this heated exchange the first couple minutes of the show when Shannon was making a statement. Skip cut him off. Shannon was frustrated at that, and Shannon was like, okay, screw it. Let's just do the show. But I don't think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I really don't. I think that was just sort of an addition onto previous incidents. I think the Tom Brady discussion, when the Bucs got blown out by the Niners late last season in December, that to me was what did it. The fact that they were arguing about Tom Brady. Skip was defending Brady for his poor performance. Shannon was saying, hey, Tom didn't play well. Give him a little bit of the blame. And Skip turns it into, and it wasn't the first time he's done this. I've watched Undisputed ever since the show started. Skip goes into this whole, you're just jealous of him because you had to retire at, I think he was 35, Shannon was when he retired. Tom, that was ended up being his last season, retired at 45, and you're jealous of him because you haven't played this long, and you're just hating on him because you're jealous and all that. And he's taking shots at Shannon. Shannon's like, time out. You will take a personal shot at me to defend him. I'm like your brother on air debating sports for the last 6.5 years. And Skip's like, yeah, I am going to take a shot at you to defend him. And Shannon's like, okay. And we heard the buyout happened, or at least agreements to the buyout happened right before the NBA finals started. They covered the finals. And then the day after the Nuggets won the championship, Shannon dipped. That was it. So it's no longer Skip and Shannon Undisputed. And I think the fact that Skip is, it's funny, I actually talked about this on Monday's show when I was talking about James Harden, that there is a very fine line to walk when it comes to not giving your opinions. I don't think you should have any, I shouldn't say any filter. I don't think you should be hesitant in giving your opinions. I don't. I don't think I think the audience can tell if it's inauthentic if you do. But there is a fine line when you are talking about somebody's mentality, somebody's work ethic. There's a fine line in you can criticize that. And trust me, many athletes I have. I call Anthony Davis coin flip Davis for crying out loud. And turning it into an attack on their character. I mean, I saw Skip the other day. The other day in his podcast was talking about how Dak Prescott is insecure and he's unable to be the leader of the Dallas Cowboys. And he's jealous of Micah Parsons. Again, some of this with no factual basis whatsoever. And it gets to the point where it's like, what are you trying to accomplish through this? This is more than just giving your opinion. This is more than just having a hot take. You could argue that term hot take was sort of maybe not coined by Skip Bayless, but used as a word to describe Skip Bayless's opinions. I've had hot takes. If you have a show, you've had hot takes. I think we all have. There's nothing wrong with that. It's what are you hoping to accomplish by doing this? By taking certain shots at certain guys, by what are the shots in particular? Do they go beyond, beyond the playing lines? Do they go beyond leadership intangibles? And they get to, I don't like this person. That's the question you have to ask. And so I think it's undeniable that the fact that Undisputed has had to bring in these many people, and by the way, I'm not saying the show won't be successful. I don't know how it's going to be. We got to wait and see as the NFL season progresses, because that's when we know is when all these shows get their highest ratings, because the NFL is the king of television. We are going to have to wait for the coming weeks, months. What are the ratings going to look like for these shows? How's Undisputed going to look? How's this new dynamic going to work? By the way, Lil Wayne, one of the greatest rappers ever, Skip's very close friend. He's going to be on Fridays. How's that going to work? Skip, he's been on that show before, so I think he'll do fine. But you're having to bring all these different people, all these different faces to replace one man. As I talked about, when that show started, when Skip, he said, I'm not doing the show unless Shannon Sharpe's my partner. And when the show started, we knew who Shannon Sharpe was. He's one of the greatest tight ends ever. We didn't know how good he was as a broadcaster, certainly in the debate space. And it turned out, dang, Skip had a pretty good eye for talent because Shannon was not a star, a superstar. And as time got on, it was Shannon's star that outshone Skip's. And that's where I think the problems came from. That's just speculating from the outside, but that's where I think there sort of became that disconnect between those two. So I hope Shannon crushes it on First Take. I think he will. By the way, ESPN added Pat McAfee that just announced his show starting, I think, September 7th on the network. Pat McAfee's great, incredible content creator, one of the best. So yeah, like I said, my only complaint with Shannon joining First Take is I wish he was on Fridays. I think Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays would work great. I mean, frankly, I like to see Shannon every day. I mean, he's that great of a talent. But if he's just going to be on for a certain schedule, that's the schedule I'd like to see him on. Undisputed, it's a wait and see. But what is not a wait and see is they've had to use this many people. By the way, this many talented people. Richard Sherman's been great on TNF, on Amazon Prime Video doing the Thursday night halftime shows. This Rachel Nichols has been a very successful journalist over the course of her career covering the NBA. You know, Lil Wayne, his resume speaks for itself. We know who Lil Wayne is. Keyshawn Johnson's proven to be talented in this space. All of these people to replace one dude. It's intellectually dishonest to just ignore that fact. So I'm interested. I can't wait to watch both. I can't listen. Stephen A. and Shannon. Oh my gosh. You want about fireworks. Can't wait. That's going to be a blast to watch. And then for Undisputed, listen, if they prove me wrong and Undisputed becomes bigger than they were with Shannon, I'll be the first to come on Carving Up, say, you know what, guys, I was wrong. We'll just see. I'll wait and see. I don't have one opinion one way or the other. Let's just see how it works because it's a format similar to First Take. There's been reports, coming out over the past couple months since Skip and Shannon split that, hey, certain individuals don't want to work with Skip. Certain individuals Skip doesn't want to work with. We'll see. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.